Sophia here from My Great Challenge. Welcome back to Anyone Can Quilt. This is episode 2. Today I'm going to show you how to do flying geese, and we are going to make our very first block because I know you guys want to start quilting. So this is the block we're going to make today. Now don't freak out. I know it looks real complicated, but it's not. It's the exact same little piecing that is called a flying geese, and all you do is at some point you change the colors of it, you assemble it, and that's it. I'm going to show you the fabric you need. I'm going to show you the technique you need to do the flying geese, and then how to assemble this into a block. So today we're going to start with 4 different fabrics which I have pressed, and I have picked these colors out of my stash because it's easy and they have a lot of contrast. So let me show them to you a little bit closer. I have a dark green here with a grayish polka dot. I have one of those bright yellow with abstract cream yellow design on it. I have this very cute Liberty type fabric that has flowers, and then the background here is gray, and to tie it in I am using this plain solid, which is a gray that has a tiny bit of purple in it. So just to show you how to make the flying geese themselves, I'm going to just use those 2 right now, and then we'll play around with the other colors in the second part of this video. So what you need to do is decide which part of the fabric you're going to use to be the big triangle in the middle, and which one is going to be the 2 wings on the side. So I've decided to use the pattern fabric here for the big triangle, and then this here is going to be the wings. So I'm going to use my ruler and show you here how to cut from a fat quarter. So my rectangle needs to be 3.5 by 6, and this ruler here is 4 by 8. So I'm lining this up to the edge of the fabric here and squaring it off here on the top, okay? And this is 4, so I know I need less than that, so I'm going to move it right here to 3.5. So I'm getting a pencil to show you what I'm doing. You want to line up the edge of your fabric here along the mark that is 3.5 inches. Usually this is actually in, I'm going to try to zoom in. Usually this is already marked for you on the ruler by being dashed lines, okay? So I know I have exactly 3.5 here, 3.5 here, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this at about 6, because 6 is right here. So right a little bit under 6, okay? And I'm gonna pull this off like this, and I know I need 6 inches. So now I'm going to turn my fabric a little bit this way. Hope you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to go here at 6, line it up here to the top. I want to get the line at 6 inch right here, exactly following the line of my fabric. I want to square it up, making sure that I have no fabric popping out here. This is perfectly squared, and I can see here that it's following the same line as well. Okay, so I am not going outside of my line, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut, okay? And this is how you get a 3.5 by 6 inch rectangle. The next thing I want to do is cut from my solid, and I can tell from the way this looked that this is not squared off, okay? You see how I'm following the line of my grid here, and this is like totally not squared off. So what I'm gonna do, just for the purpose of doing this real quick for you guys, I'm going to snip out the part that is not even. Okay, so now we squared off. All right, there we go. So I'm gonna line this up here, and what we want is 2 squares that are 3.5 by 3.5. So again, I'm taking my ruler, I'm looking at the 3.5 mark right here. I'm perfectly lined up here. I'm following the 3.5 mark here, right? And since I need 2, that would be 7. My 7 mark is here. So I'm just gonna go a little bit under it, go up, separate my fabric like this, and I'm going to flip it around real quick. This is what I do when I just need those pieces. If I had more pieces, I would do a different method, and I'll definitely show you that in another video. So now I know I want 7, right? So I'm just gonna go here. I'm making sure I'm square here, square here. This is perfectly square here. I'm following the line, right? So this is going to be exactly 7. And I'm going to put it this way, and I'm going to cut at 3.5. So I should have 2 squares. I'm lined here. I'm perfectly following the line here. There's no fabric coming off. Cutting here. And I have 2 3.5 square and 1 3.5 by 6 rectangle. So what I'm going to do is pin them first, just to show you what we're going to do, so you have a good understanding on how to do a flying geese. All right, so you're going to line up this square, so it should be lined up here to this fabric, and again they are right to right or front to front, whatever you want to call it, okay? So I'm going to pin this as a triangle a little bit like this, okay? So what's going to happen is that we're going to sew right here, and then we're going to flip this over. It's going to end up looking like this. Okay, I'm just going to do a little bit of a mark like that with my finger. Okay, and then the second one we're going to place this way. I'm going to pin it as well so you can see better and it doesn't shift while I'm pressing it with my finger. Okay, and the second one, so you're going to open it up like this, right? And then the second one we do exactly the same thing. We're going to sew it this way, right? And then we're going to flip it over. And what's going to happen is that this one is going to overlap right here. You're not going to get a perfect point where they meet this way. This one is actually going to overlap that way. Okay, do you see what I'm talking about? All right, so let's start by marking our lines as to where we want our sewing line to be. Now you remember from the last video when we did the half square triangles? What we did was sew, imagine this was my pencil mark, we were sewing at 1/4 inch seam on either side of the mark. Okay, but in this case we're going to sew directly on the line. So I already marked it by finger folding it, but I want to make sure that I'm really accurate. So I'm just going to go from corner to corner, and I'm going to make a pencil mark. Okay, I'm hoping you can see that. Then I'm going to take this, right, and I'm going to put it right here from corner to corner. I want to make sure I am perfectly aligned with the fabric, and I'm going to pin it here. And just for good measure, I'm going to pin it on the other side as well, because I just don't want the fabric to shift. All right, and all I'm going to do is sew directly on the line, not outside of it with a 1/4 inch seam. I'm sewing directly on the line. Here we are at the machine, and here is my fabric. Do you see my pencil mark right here? Okay, so I'm going to align this with my needle, and that's easy to do because most of the machines that you'll have will have a little notch right here, and that's indicated for you as to where your needle or the middle of the foot is. So you're just going to, and since this is a little bit transparent, you can really see. So I'm going to go a little bit here. Okay, I'm going to put my foot down. When the foot is down, you can really see that the notch is exactly on the line. Now when you do a flying geese like this, I really recommend that you pin on both sides, because that fabric does tend to shift. All right, so that's done. Okay, so this is what you're going to do now. Before we press it, you're going to take your ruler, and this is my sewing line, okay, and I'm just going to go 1/4 inch from it. Okay, so I'm going to align. Right here is my sewing line, right, and I'm 1/4 inch above it. Okay, I'm going to make it easy for you. We're just going to make a mark like this. Okay, you see the mark I made? Let me give you a close-up so you can see better. Okay, so you see the mark I made right here? All right, so this is 1/4 inch from the sewing mark. You're going to follow this line, and you're going to trim like this, that little big dog ear right there. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to flip this open this way, and we're going to press it. So my iron is on, and we're just gonna go ahead. Now this one, I'm pressing it to the outside. In the other video, I was pressing directly towards the dark side, but for this one, we're going to press towards the outside, and we're going to do that throughout the entire block that we're making. So I'm going to flip it this way. I'm going to give it a good press here as well. Okay, and that's very important that you give it a good press, because remember, the other square is going to overlap right here on that triangle. Let's make the second one. All right, so here we go. Okay, so let's place the second one. What you're going to do is the exact same process. You're going to put your square right here, corner to corner, on the edge of your rectangle. Okay, and you see how it's overlapping here? That's fine. That's exactly what we want. All right, I'm going to follow exactly the same process. I'm going to, remember, we're making a point that goes this way. All right, so don't go sew it this way, because then you'll have a band. You won't have a triangle. So you're going from corner to corner, like this. You're going to make a mark, a pencil mark. Go several times if you're afraid you're not going to see it well in your machine. And I'm going to just pin it on either side, because I don't want it to shift. Pull my fabric a little bit. This is cheap fabric from Joanne, that's why. And this one is not a pin. Okay, and we're going to repeat the exact same process. We're going to go to the machine and make a sewing line from this corner all the way here, and we're going to overlap. We're going to go over the triangle we've already completed. Okay, so you just keep going from one end, and you just keep going. Don't worry about the extra stitches here. You just keep going. Do not stop at the corner. Just keep going. And here we go. So I'm hoping you can see what I did here. So I'm gonna remove my pins. All right, and this is where my stitches are, and you see I went all the way to the other side, and I went over the first triangle. Okay, so we're gonna do exactly the same thing we did earlier. We're gonna make a 1/4 inch mark above the line right here. So if you want, you can do pencil, or you can just go right ahead and trim that off. All right, and now we're going to flip this over like this, and we're going to press it, and this is your first flying geese. So here we go. Here's your first flying geese. So what I'm going to do, because it's a little bit off here, see it's a little bit crooked, that's normal. Most of your blocks and your piecing will do that. I'm just going to square it off here, right here at the corner. And I know that if I line it up this way, I have pretty much all of this stuff here. That's too much. So I'm just gonna go ahead and zip that out. Okay, there we go. So now it's nicely squared off, and we're gonna do the same thing right here. Got just a tiny bit that's coming off this way. That is just not straight, and that happens, so don't worry about it. Soon I'll show you, in another video, I will show you how to properly downsize a half square triangle so you don't eat up more of one color than the other. So this is your first flying geese. So guess what, you guys? We're going to make 4 of those. So let me make 3 more, and I'll be right back. So here we go. I have 4 flying geese. Okay, I'm gonna give you a little close-up because I want you to notice something. All right, you see how, first of all, I made a rookie mistake. All of the right one overlap over the left one, except for this one, but that's all right. It's solid, you can really see it. You're gonna make mistakes like this, and that's all right. That's part of learning. So I want you to notice something, that there's a space here before you reach the point. Okay, that's the 1/4 of a seam for the next one you're going to sew over. So if I put this one here right over it like this, imagine that that's the edge of it. You're going to have the triangles touch each other, hopefully to perfection. Let me move out a little bit, and we're going to put all 4 of them together like this. So that's not how you basically are going to sew them at 1/4 inch, okay, just like we did the other block. But basically this is what it would look like, okay. And this, my friend, could be an entire border for a full quilt, or you can make them smaller. So what am I going to do with this? Well, there's a lot of things you could do. You could have two this way if you wanted to. If you wanted to make a smaller block with just flying geese, you can have two this way, and then you could have one that goes, technically it goes this way. I'm going to fold it with my fingers. Okay, and the other one will go this way. All right, and you repeat it here. You have two going that way, and here you have two going down or going this way. You could do a whole block like this. All right, you could have them face each other, or you could have them face away from each other. Okay, that's part of quilting. Piecing is like a puzzle. One of you mentioned that earlier. So what I'm going to do now is make 4 more, but we're going to play with the collars. What I mean by that is that some of the corners are going to change and some of the middles are going to change in terms of collars. And what's going to happen is that when we put it all together, we'll have 2 flying geese this way, we'll have 2 flying geese that way, we'll have 2 going this way and 2 going this way. But the only difference is that you already see half of the pattern here, is that we'll start having a pinwheel in the middle that has different colors. So this is really where the fun is going to start. I'm having the same rectangles, 3.5 by 6, except I cut them in a yellow fabric. So that would be, you remember I said we were going to use 4 fabrics, right? So I have the gray one with the floral here, and I'm going to have flying geese with the big triangle, but instead of being the green one, it's going to be the yellow, okay? So it's the same process, nothing changed. The only thing that's going to change this time around is that what I'm going to do is that we're going to have, and I'm going to fold them like this for you so you can see. This time around, we're going to do one of the ears, or one of the triangle on the left, is going to be the gray. So I cut 4, there are 3.5 by 3.5. That's the same dimension than the one we had earlier. And I'm only folding them for you right now so you can have a visual of what we're going to do. Okay, and here is the 4th one. All right, so far, no change. We're doing exactly the same process. Okay, you're gonna cut this one, you're gonna sew this one first, you're gonna cut at 1/4 inch, you're gonna fold it over, and you're going to get basically this 1/2 here, except that this will be yellow, but the gray will be the same. Okay, but now what I did is that I cut 4 of my darker color, which is the polka dot green, and they are same size, they're 3.5 by 3.5. I'm gonna fold them in half, and those, instead of being a second gray like I had on this one, where I had on this one where I have 2 grays, we're gonna have a dark green instead. So the dark green is gonna go and overlap this way. Okay, so it's the exact same process. Nothing's changed in terms of the technique. Okay, the only thing that is different is that we are changing the color of the base, and we are changing the color of just one corner. The only thing you want to make sure you do and not make a mistake is that your green one, or the only one that you've changed the color in terms of the square, is always going to be on the right side. Okay, it's always going to be the second one that you sew, the last one, and the one that overlaps over this one. Okay, so the gray one, the one that we did with the original one, is going to be basically the one that's underneath, and the first one you sew, and that one is going to be on the left side. Okay, so I'm going to start the same process. Just to make it easier, we're going to mark the half of each one of those with the pencil, and we're going to do it all at once. Okay, so I'm just going from corner to corner like this. Like this. All right, and let's do the first one. You're going to put it this way, just like we did before. You pin it like so. Okay, and you're going to sew on the line. You're going to cut off this part 1/4 of an inch from your sewing mark. You're gonna flip it over and press. So I'll be right back with all 4 of them with their gray triangle folded to the side. Okay, and all I'm gonna do now is go to my ironing board and I'm just going to press them open. Remember, we're keeping this right there underneath. We're pressing to the outside this time around. And again, we're gonna take our 4 squares that are in the dark green. And I'm gonna mark the line right in the middle from corner to corner on every single one of them. I'm on the back of the fabric, by the way. I just want to make sure you know that. And this goes this way. We're going to pin it on both sides and sew a line. So here we go. We've made 8 flying geese. We have 4 that have the floral pattern and the gray ears. Here they are. And we've made 4 that have the yellow triangle, the gray ear and the green ear. Okay, so how do we put it together to make a big pinwheel? So this is how you're going to place them and how we're going to piece them and sew them together. You're gonna have a gray one like this with the green, and you're gonna follow it by one of these. So I'm gonna overlap it just a little bit because remember they are 1/4 inch seam when you are sewing them. Okay, so you have one like this. The next one, you're going to have this one, but you're going to place it this way. So I'm gonna just put it a little bit over like this. All right, remember we're doing 1/4 inch seam. The second one is going to be this way. So basically it's this one, but it's flipped the other way. Okay, then you're gonna do the same thing here. You're gonna have one that goes this way. And then of course we're putting the green one over like this, right? And then we're gonna flip it again. This one goes right here. And the gray one with the flower goes this way. I'm gonna hide the seam. Okay, so there you have it. What it looks like is basically a pinwheel in a pinwheel in a pinwheel, and then you have the gray background all around it. So how do you piece that together? Very easy. We're going to start with those 2. We're just going to sew those 2 like this at a 1/4 inch seam. Then we're going to do the same thing with those 2. You're going to put those 2 together, same thing, at a 1/4 inch seam. You're going to put these 2 together at a 1/4 inch seam right here, and these 2 together at a 1/4 inch seam. All right, so it's gonna give us 4 blocks. So let's look at them. Here's 1, here's 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so what I did is that I pressed them, the seam here, everything is pointing towards the arrows. See how the arrow goes this way, the arrow goes this way? All right, instead of having the seam this way, I'm having the seam going towards the arrows. So every single one of them is pressed that way. So what's going to happen is that it's going to go this way, this way, this way, and this way, and it's going to keep your block pretty much flat. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so this is what we're going to do now. Forget about these 2. We're going to join this one to this one. So I'm just going to put those 2 together like this. Okay, and off we go. We're just going to sew right here at a 1/4 of an inch seam. I'll be right back. Okay, so here they are. These are your 2. Okay, so now you're probably gonna notice that I have a point here, but over here it looks like it's a little off. Well, you know why? That's normal. It's because I'm going to sew this at a 1/4 of an inch when I add the bottom block. Okay, so technically the bottom block should go right at this point right here, and I'm going to measure. This is a 1/4 of an inch. I'm gonna measure from here to here. Okay, and yep, just pretty much this is going to be, yep, exactly a 1/4 inch from the edges right here to the point here. So that tells me that when I put my pinwheel together, the centers should meet perfectly, because this is basically going to be underneath the other fabric. All right, so we put those two together. Let's put the two at the bottom together. So we got one that goes like this, remember? And then the other one goes this way, okay? So let's just go like this. And we're going to sew right here at 1/4 inch. So I have my two on top. I have sewn them together already, and here are my two that got the bottom. So what do I do now? Very easy. I just go this way, put them together, and I'm going to sew right here at 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, because there was one thing you want to make sure is that this seam right here matches the seam here. So you want to position it pretty much perfect. If you're concerned that this is going to move, don't worry about it. Just put a pin right here. It's going to hold it in place. Okay, so here's the back of it, and it's assembled, it's put together, and I just want to show you the seams in the back. Okay, so you remember all my seams on my triangles are going towards the pointed arrow. Okay, however, the one in the middle, because I have basically 2, 4, 2 and 4, 2 and 4, 2 and 4 pieces of fabric. So that's a lot of fabric right here meeting in the middle, right? What I did is that I pressed this open. Instead of pressing it one way where we'd end up having a big bulge right here, I'm pressing this just open like this. So that allows me to have most of the half of the fabric on one side and half of the fabric on the other. So let's flip it over and see what it looks like. And here you go, guys. You have your Flying Geese pinwheel, okay? And it's pretty much on point, so to speak. Okay, so the last thing you want to do now is square it off, because you see it's a little bit off here and here, so that's pretty easy to do. We're not going to take out a lot of fabric. We're just gonna, because this is not part of a quilt, this is just practice, I'm just gonna take off a little bit here so that I am pretty much on a straight line. Okay, and again, I'm only taking off the stuff that's kind of like a little bit askew. Okay, so let me move that. Okay, so you see I'm only removing that stuff. Now I have a nice flat line. Okay, going to the other side. Okay, this is not resizing, this is not the perfect square off. I'm just basically making it a little bit more even on the edges. There's a method to square off and a method to resize that I will show you again at a later time. So I'm just removing those here. I hope this video is not too long. Okay, and we're going the same way here. I'm going to put it here in one corner. This one is really off. All right, so we're going to go like this. So I'm missing some fabric here, and that I'm not surprised, because this fabric, the gray one, is a very cheap fat quarter that I got at Joann's, and it is kind of moving a lot and getting distorted, as opposed to the other ones that are really thick. Not thick, but really good fabric. So I'm missing a little bit here, and that's all right when I'm doing the binding around it, because that's what we're going to do next week. We'll remember that. Okay, so this goes here, and then we have this part here. This one is pretty much on par, and I'm missing too much. Let me go along the right line here. Yeah, this one I'm not removing a lot, just this part right here, right? That's all I'm moving. Okay, so here we go. You have your first block. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Tell me down below, how do you like this block? If you are making it, please post your pictures on my Facebook page. I would love to see your progress and how you're doing, and it gives me an idea whether or not I'm doing good instructions on how to do this block. And what we're going to do next week is, I'm not going to overwhelm you with yet another new technique and something else. We're actually going to take this very same block and we're going to quilt it. We're going to put a back to it. We're going to put a batting in between. We're going to quilt it, and then I'm going to show you how to do the binding. So we will have a block like this that's I don't even know, I think it's 12 by 12, and we will have a little mat that you can use as a mug rug, that's what they call it, or you know, if you want to put a vase on it or anything. Okay, I will see you next week. Give me a big thumbs up if you like this video. Don't forget to subscribe right here in the corner if this is your first time watching one of my tutorial. This is really the second one only, but there's going to be plenty more, so please subscribe right here in the corner, and I will see you next time. I'm going to try to do one quilting video every week. Talk to you later, you guys. Thanks for watching. Bye.